In the winter of 1926-1927, Professor George Gamel Angel, an expert in ancient inscriptions, died mysteriously. His grandnephew, Francis Wayland Thurston, inherited his papers and discovered a mysterious box containing a clay bas-relief and strange notes. The bas-relief depicted a monstrous creature with tentacles and wings, accompanied by cryptic hieroglyphics. The notes mentioned a Cthulhu cult and referred to the dreams and experiences of Henry Anthony Wilcox, a young sculptor who had visited Professor Angel. Wilcox was known for his eccentricity and claimed to be psychically hypersensitive. The notes also mentioned Inspector John R. Legras and Professor Webb, who had encountered similar mysteries. As Thurston delved deeper into the mystery, he began to uncover a dark history of secret societies and hidden cults. He realized that his uncle had stumbled upon something terrifying, which had driven him to keep silent. Thurston feared that if he continued to investigate, he would unleash a horror beyond human comprehension. Professor Angel listened to a rambling tale from Wilcox, a sculptor, who had a dream of strange cities with cyclopean buildings and green ooze. The dream was triggered by a slight earthquake tremor the night before. Wilcox's imagination was affected, and he created a bas-relief with hieroglyphics and a verbal jumble, Cthulhu Mythos, which excited and disturbed Professor Angel. The professor questioned Wilcox and studied the bas-relief, suspecting that Wilcox might be connected to strange cults or societies. After the first interview, Wilcox reported daily dreams of dark and dripping stone with a subterranean voice shouting monotonously. The two sounds most frequently repeated were Cthulhu and Arlae. On March 23rd, Wilcox failed to appear and was found to be suffering from an obscure fever. He cried out in the night, mentioning a gigantic thing miles high that walked or lumbered about. Dr. Toby was in charge of his case, and Professor Angel kept close watch. On April 2nd, Wilcox suddenly recovered, but all traces of strange dreaming had vanished. Professor Angel had also instituted inquiries amongst friends, asking for nightly reports of their dreams. The reception was varied, but he received many responses. Average people reported little, but artists and poets told a disturbing tale of bizarre dreams, including scenes and half-sounds similar to Wilcox's descriptions. One case, an architect, went violently insane and later expired. Press cuttings touched on cases of panic, mania, and eccentricity during the given period, including nocturnal suicide, fanatical letters, and voodoo orgies. In the early 20th century, a series of strange events took place in insane asylums, but medical professionals failed to notice the eerie parallels. Professor Angel had seen a mysterious bas-relief and heard the ominous syllables Cthulhu before. The story begins with Inspector Legras, who brought a grotesque stone statuette to the American Archaeological Society's annual meeting in 1908. The statuette was captured during a raid on a voodoo meeting in New Orleans, and its origins were unknown. The police sought help from antiquarians to track down the cult. The statuette depicted a monster with an octopus-like head, scaly body, and long wings. It was ancient, but its material and writing were unknown. Professor Webb, an explorer, recognized the symbol and writing as similar to those of a Greenland cult he had encountered 48 years prior. The cult worshipped a supreme elder devil, and their rituals involved human sacrifices. The phrase, Ph Nglui Mglw Naf Cthulhu Arlae W Gonagal Fhtan, was common to both cults, meaning in his house at Arlae dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. Inspector Legras shared his experience with the swamp worshippers, revealing a degree of cosmic imagination among the cult members. On November 1st, 1907, the New Orleans police received a frantic call from the swamp and lagoon country to the south. The squatters, descendants of Lafitte's men, were terrified of an unknown entity that had appeared in the night. The police sent a team of 20 officers, led by Inspector Legras, to investigate. As they journeyed deeper into the cypress woods, they encountered eerie sounds, including insane shouts, harrowing screams, and soul-chilling chants. The locals refused to guide them further, fearing the malevolent presence. Legras and his team pressed on, eventually coming upon a horrific scene. A group of abnormal humans, void of clothing, dancing around a monstrous ring-shaped bonfire. At the center of the bonfire stood a granite monolith with a noxious carven statuette on top. The bodies of the missing squatters hung from scaffolds surrounding the monolith. The police intervened, capturing 47 prisoners and removing the statuette. The prisoners, mostly seamen and mixed-blooded individuals, revealed a deep and ancient faith in the Great Old Ones who lived before humanity. They worshipped Cthulhu, a powerful priest who would one day rise from his underwater city and reclaim the earth. The prisoners hinted at dark, winged creatures that came from the haunted woods to visit the faithful. Only 2 prisoners were deemed sane enough to be hanged, while the rest were institutionalized. Old Castro, a mestizo, shared tales of mysterious allies and undying leaders of a cult in China's mountains. He spoke of ancient beings, the Great Old Ones who ruled the earth before humans. They had cities, and their remains could be found on Pacific islands. These beings weren't made of flesh and blood, but had shape and could travel through the sky when the stars aligned. They lay in stone houses, preserved by Cthulhu's spells, waiting for the right moment to return. Castro told of a cult that worshipped the Great Old Ones, using idols brought from dark stars. The cult would never die, and when the stars aligned, the priests would revive Cthulhu, and the Great Old Ones would teach humans new ways to live freely and wildly. Detective Legras investigated the cult, but Castro refused to speak more about the black spirits of Earth. Legras believed the cult's center was in Arabia, in the hidden city of pillars. The authorities knew little about the cult, but a statuette and a mysterious image sparked interest. Professor Angel's nephew was skeptical, but the professor was excited to investigate the cult. He looked into the dreams of a young sculptor, Wilcox, who had dreamed of the image and hieroglyphics. The nephew visited Wilcox, who showed him his artwork, including a morbid statue inspired by his dreams. Wilcox knew nothing of the cult, but his dreams seemed connected to the mysterious allies. I met Wilcox, a young sculptor who told me about his dreams of a damp, cyclopean city with strange geometry. He spoke of Cthulhu, a dead creature from a stone vault at Arlae, and I felt drawn to the mystery. I believed Wilcox had heard of the cult casually and forgot it, but it resurfaced in his dreams and art. I visited New Orleans, spoke with Legras, and saw the frightful image. I questioned prisoners and researched the cult's origin, suspecting a real, secret, and ancient religion. I discovered that my uncle's death might not have been natural, possibly due to his inquiries into the cult. Later, I found an old Australian journal with an article about a derelict yacht, the Alert, found at sea with a survivor, Gustaf Johansson, and a dead man. Johansson told a strange story of piracy and slaughter, and had a stone idol similar to the one Legras found. The idol was unknown, and authorities were baffled. Johansson's story hinted at the cult's involvement at sea. This new information sparked a train of ideas in my mind, and I realized the cult had interests both on land and at sea. The mysterious crew of the Emma sailed with a hideous idol, and 6 of its crew members died on an unknown island. The Vice Admiralty's investigation revealed little about the noxious cult in Dunedin. However, a series of eerie events occurred, including an earthquake, storm, and strange dreams experienced by poets and artists. A young sculptor even created a form of the dreaded Cthulhu in his sleep. The crew of the Emma landed on the unknown island on March 23rd, leaving 6 men dead, and on that date, the dreams of sensitive men became more vivid and dark. An architect went mad, and a sculptor fell into delirium. I, the narrator, began to investigate the strange occurrences, searching for answers in Dunedin, Auckland, and Sydney. I met with mate Johansson, who had returned with yellow hair turned white after his experience. He refused to share more about his ordeal, but I obtained his address in Oslo. I traveled to Oslo, only to find that Johansson had died, leaving behind a manuscript detailing his voyage. The manuscript revealed that Johansson and his men had stumbled upon a mysterious stone pillar and a coastline of cyclopean masonry, which was the nightmare corpse city of Arlae, built by loathsome shapes that seeped down from the dark stars. In a mysterious city, Johansson and his men landed on a monstrous acropolis, feeling a sense of fright and menace. They discovered a massive carved door with a squid dragon bas-relief, which seemed to defy geometry and perspective. As they explored, they found that the door was balanced and slowly began to open, revealing a dark and ominous aperture. A terrible creature, Cthulhu, emerged from the depths, its green and gelatinous form causing chaos and destruction. The men tried to flee, but many were consumed by the monster. Only Bryden and Johansson managed to escape on their boat, the Alert, pursued by Cthulhu. Johansson drove the boat head-on against the creature, causing a massive explosion and temporarily defeating it. The experience left Johansson traumatized, and he eventually returned home, where he wrote down his horrific tale before his death. As my uncle and Johansson met their fate, I fear I'll suffer the same. I know too much about the cult which still thrives. Cthulhu, the ancient evil, remains trapped in his stone prison. His underwater city is hidden once more, but his followers continue to worship and commit atrocities around ancient monoliths. If Cthulhu were free, the world would be in chaos. One day, the evil may rise again, and decay will consume human cities. I dare not think about it. I hope that if I don't survive, my executors will be cautious and keep this manuscript from prying eyes.